Good evening, everybody. Happy Wednesday, December 29th. Happy holidays. I hope you like all the Christmas swag we got going on here. So tonight I want to do a year-end wrap-up. So what have we gotten done this year as an organization towards solving the student loan problem? As hopefully you know, our two goals are: number one, returning bankruptcy to all student loans; number two, getting all federally owned student loans canceled by executive order. So let me first say, 2 years ago, we were almost nowhere on this issue. Joe Biden had laughed me out of the room on the very moderate question about returning bankruptcy protection to student loans. Elizabeth Warren, I think, had just brought bankruptcy into her presidential agenda. So we were getting a little places, but we had no legislation to fight for, really, or the legislation we had was not going to pass. And student loan cancellation by executive order was nothing, nowhere. Nobody was talking about it, not even a thing, but for one article that we did an interview for in August 2019. So 2 years ago, we were nowhere. 1 year ago, we still did not, 1 year ago, we did not have meaningful legislation to fight for. Student loan cancellation by executive order, thankfully, had become a real thing because in September of 2020, Elizabeth Warren and Chuck Schumer started calling for exactly that. So we were kind of kicking ass as of a year ago, not too bad. But we had no legislation, and it was still very, very tough sledding. Well, over the past year, I'm very happy to report to you today, right now, tonight, that as of August, a few months ago, actually, 3 or 4 months ago, we now have a very good bill, S-2598, in the Senate. The chairman of the Judiciary Committee, Senator Dick Durbin, has co-sponsored the bill, and two Republicans, John Cornyn and Josh Hawley, both who are also on the Senate Judiciary Committee, have co-sponsored that bill. We're a fiercely nonpartisan group, but historically, Republicans have opposed the return of bankruptcy to student loans. So having them on this bill is just extremely good, folks. And this bill could be passed out of committee, out of Senate any day now. Not any day, but in the new year, very shortly into the new year when Senate gets back in session. So that's our number one accomplishment, I guess, this year. But we did a lot more than that. I looked at all the news that we'd been featured in over the years, and it was a ton of stuff. We were featured 2 or 3 times in The Guardian, 2, 3, 4 times in Business Insider. We're featured in CNBC. Our petition eclipsed 1 million signatures this year, which was great. We're now at about 1.1 million, which is fine. We should have 25 million, quite frankly. But we were the 5th largest petition in the United States this year. So that's good. Most recently, we were featured at BuzzFeed News, good piece. We've been featured, our people and us have been featured in the Wall Street Journal. I don't think we had anything in the New York Times this year. Not necessarily a bad thing. New York Times has been pretty terrible on this issue, quite frankly. We've been all over the media. We've done a ton of radio shows, more podcasts than I can even count. Go to our website, studentloanjustice.org, and you can go to the media section. You can see much of the media that we were in. There was quite a few very good pieces done this year. Atlanta Journal-Constitution. We broke a bunch of important research this year. We broke the story about how there are more older borrowers. By the way, if you have any questions or comments, throw them out. Sorry if I'm kind of jumping around here. It was a very busy year. I'm trying to cover everything. If you're watching us on Facebook, please throw out your comments. I'm very happy to respond to them if I can see them. If you're watching us on Twitter or YouTube or any of our other channels, Instagram, sorry about that, but you kind of have to go to our Facebook group. So facebook.com/groups/SLJ group. So we broke a ton of stories this year in the media. I don't know which is the most important, but we broke the story about older borrowers outnumbering younger borrowers with student loans. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's true. There are more people over the age of 35 than under the age of 35 with federal student loans. There are more people over the age of 50 than under the age of 25 with federal student loans. And in both of those cases, the older group owes way, 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 way more than the younger group, despite, and think about it, having borrowed far, far less. Because remember, people in their 50s and 60s, they didn't borrow much money at all for college, and many decades ago. The fact that they now outnumber their younger counterpart that I just said, and they owe more, well, that's just ridiculous, obscene, and clear proof that this lending system has catastrophically failed. We also broke the news that over a third of U.S. states' student loan debt in those states exceeds their entire state budgets, which is just crazy. I mean, come on. State budgets are big these days. Like, look at the state of Georgia, for example. They have a state budget of $48 billion. A lot of money. But student loan debt in the state of Georgia, $82 billion. What are their governors doing? How could they have let this happen to their state? We have to start holding the governors accountable, and we're doing that. And if you've watched us over the past year, you have seen us hit these governors hard, and we will continue to do that. I really think the governors may solve this problem for us. It's a bit of a Hail Mary, but if you really want student loan cancellation, I think particularly Republican governors could make that happen for us this year. So states, it's not just Georgia, guys. It's Georgia, it's Florida, it's Texas, it's Alabama, it's North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Alabama, Missouri, South Carolina, Ohio, New Hampshire, and I think a couple other Republican. Kansas is very close to that. Michigan, Idaho is not great either, by the way. These states, student loan debt either nearly exceeds or absolutely exceeds, and in some cases exceeds by a lot, the entire state budget of those states. One more quick statistic. There's enough student loan debt in South Carolina to buy every farm in the state of South Carolina twice and still have $15 billion left over. So yeah, we broke that story in, I think it was Business Insider and then like Yahoo News. I think it got picked up a couple other places. So that was good. Getting the truth out is very important for giving us the power that we need to win this fight. We broke some other research as well. For example, I think most recently we found that even before the pandemic, more than 50%, more than half of all borrowers were not paying on their student loans at all, which is, again, guys, this is a failed lending system. That much is, in my opinion, not even a controversial statement. It is catastrophically failed by all rational metrics and measures. We were also quite prolific this year. I want to say that we wrote something like 9-10 articles or so, covering the things that I just said, but also some very important things, important editorial things, like why Joe Biden is such a creep and why he has betrayed us, why conservatives have a very major student loan problem. Like all those states that I said, all those red states that are being completely wrecked by student loan debt, the politicos in those states, the politicians in those states tend to oppose us, the borrowers, and tend to fight for the student loan monstrosity, which is a big government, college enriching, college empowering, lending beast. That is not very conservative. And the Republican Party in states like, I don't know, Georgia, for example, how did that last election go for them? It didn't go well. I think the student loan issue is why that race was even close to begin with. So the conservatives have got to get off their ass, wrap their head around this problem, realize that student loan borrowers are not a bunch of entitled elitist liberals. We are not. 40% never graduated. Millions went to trade schools, community colleges. 100% of us were determined to be financially needy as a precondition for getting the loans. We are not your entitled liberal trust fund, Antifa people, or however certain conservatives, people calling themselves conservatives, would like to portray us. That is just absolutely ass backwards. And so we are changing the zeitgeist, guys. We are changing the public conversation, and most importantly, public perception about this problem. So that's all good and well, but what do we have in front of us, guys? What we have in front of us is this. The most important thing I'm going to tell you tonight, we've seen over this year, we've seen what Biden intends to do with student loan cancellation. What he intends to do is nothing unless he is pushed very hard to do it. We have essentially two student loan cancellation things on the table. One, a blanket $10,000 loan cancellation. And apparently Biden wants to go through Congress to make that happen. Guys, forget about that. It's nonsense. It's never going to happen. Congress will never raise $450 billion to cancel $10,000 in student loans. Not going to happen. Just get that out of your mind. It's a joke. It's a trick. It's never going to happen. There's another thing on the table, up to $50,000 in loan cancellation, which is a relic of Elizabeth Warren, Chuck Schumer's proposal. Guys, I'm sorry to tell you, but it is a trick. Up to $50,000 could mean anything. And if the Department of Education and all the swamp creatures in Washington, D.C., once they get done bureaucratizing whatever this up to $50,000 loan cancellation actually winds up being, even if it's an executive order, it will come to almost nothing for almost everyone, and it will mean absolutely nothing for many. We've seen this trick played many times over the years, ladies and gentlemen. The loan cancellation we are going to see in the current political climate is going to be a cruel joke. And your life and your livelihood is going to be the punchline. Mine too. I have student loans. Don't forget. We're not getting tricked by that again, guys. So the most important thing I will tell you, the whole punchline here, we will not get back. We will not see meaningful student loan cancellation unless and until we get the threat of bankruptcy back on our side. Let me just put that a different way. We will only see, and we will see, and in fact, I think meaningful, significant student loan cancellation becomes inevitable when we do get the threat of bankruptcy back on our side. Bankruptcy sucks. It's a terrible thing to have to do. But the founding fathers knew that it was so important. They called for it ahead of the power to declare war and raise an army in the Constitution. I kid you not. A lot of people don't know that. Read the Constitution. Go to Article 1, Section 8. Look at the big, long list of congressional powers. You see those two things I said. You see the power to build a navy and coin currency and create a judiciary and many other things. Ahead of all those things is the call for uniform bankruptcy laws. The founders knew something. And what they knew is that the people have got to have the threat of bankruptcy on their side in order for any lending system to be fair. And so too is it with the student loan problem. Only with the threat of bankruptcy back on our side will we see actual, meaningful, widespread, possibly total loan cancellation. Not going to happen until then. So critically important. I'm writing an article saying exactly that as we speak. I'll have it posted hopefully by tomorrow. I'm going to need your help in spreading that around, not only to the media and politicos, etc., but quite frankly, to everyone you know with student loans. We've got to use our agency to spread the word. This is very important, guys. I hate fighting for bankruptcy. I've been doing it for 15 or 16 years. It's not sexy. It's not fun. It's not pleasant. The whole topic is just sort of taboo. But guys, we've got to have the threat of bankruptcy back on our side. It's just that simple. And quite frankly, I wish the other activist groups out there would clue into that fact. I don't know if they are just ignorant or whether they are there's something else going on behind the scenes. I don't know. We've seen many, many tricks played on us over the past years and decades. I don't speak for the other groups. I can only say that they should know what I know if they're going to call themselves student loan activists, and to continue to fight for up to $50,000 in loan cancellation in the absence of bankruptcy protections is stupid. It is asinine. It will not come to anything meaningful for almost anyone. Got to have the threat of bankruptcy back on our side. So, hey, I think we have some comments here. Let me just quickly get to them. Hey, Gina Diaz, how you doing? Gina Diaz says, bankruptcy does not pertain to student loans. Student loans are exempt. That's the whole point, Gina. Student loans are the only type of loan in our nation's history to be uniquely stripped of the same uniform bankruptcy rights that every other loan has. In the absence of bankruptcy protections, it gives the lending system a license to steal. Also, the absence of statutes of limitations, I might add. But by returning the threat of bankruptcy back to us as it exists for all other loans, then all of a sudden the whole game changes. The federal government can't treat us terribly. They can't do these fake loan cancellations. They can't run these loan forgiveness scams where 99% of the people get disqualified, because they know if they treat us too badly, we will be compelled to file for bankruptcy. And there are 40 million borrowers in the country who are losing sleep over their student loans. In an average typical year, fewer than 1 million people file for bankruptcy for any reason. So having the threat of bankruptcy on our side changes the game overnight. Joe Biden will have to cancel loans very broadly in a very meaningful, significant way. None of this up to $50,000 nonsense. They will have to do it meaningfully, or they will see the bankruptcy courts in this country overwhelmed to the point of seizure, like nothing we've ever seen in this country, including the Great Depression. So the threat, getting very few people, hopefully, ultimately, should ever have to file. Just the threat of bankruptcy on its own should be enough to compel, at long last, meaningful relief for all us victimized borrowers. I hate using the word victim, but what else are you going to call it? We are the victims of the worst, most predatory, largest lending scam in the history of the United States, and we do not have to take this. Gina says, okay, got it. All right, thank you. Good. Gina Diaz says, I've written to him several times. He doesn't care. I think you're talking about Joe Biden. And yeah, Gina, we knew Joe Biden was going to be very difficult. We obviously didn't endorse him before the election. We frankly warned people about him. We didn't endorse Trump either, by the way. We couldn't endorse either candidate. The only candidate we could endorse was Howie Hawkins of the Green Party. Hopefully that will change next time. But yeah, no, Biden, we knew was going to be very tough, and he has not disappointed on that. Joe Biden was quite responsible for removing bankruptcy rights from student loans going back to 1977. Good, Gina. Yeah, keep doing that. We've got to put pressure. I mean, the guy who is going to cancel these loans is going to be Biden. Also, remember, not only can the president cancel student loans with nothing needed from the Treasury, no approval from Congress needed, not one dime added to the national debt, he can also order the Department of Education to stop opposing student loan borrowers in bankruptcy court. So the president has a lot of power here. And he runs the risk of being the least popular president in U.S. history. And the 45 million voting student loan borrowers that up to this point he has, by and large, betrayed. We are not going to forget what he said before the election versus what he has not done and the terrible things he has said since the election. And I don't want to bash on Joe Biden too much. Frankly, I'm starting to feel sorry for the guy. He's oh boy, he's got some problems. But I do know that the one thing that President Biden absolutely needs to do is show some good faith with respect to the very glowing promises he made before this election. So we're fighting for S-2598. This bill, frankly, in my opinion, is probably the most important thing. We might get lucky. We might get a Hail Mary with a Republican governor or maybe several Republican governors like Brian Kemp, Greg Abbott, Bill Lee, others. If they were to stand up and tell Biden to cancel the loans, I think it would probably happen because that would be both Democrats and Republicans calling for the same thing. Everybody would stop paying. The entire lending system would cease to exist. That's a Hail Mary that could happen. But in the current politics, I think the only thing that will guarantee meaningful student loan cancellation is the return of the threat of bankruptcy. So S-2598 becomes overwhelmingly important. I don't think we can count on Biden doing anything on his own unless he is pushed. And getting S-2598 passed will make that happen. The most important thing anybody can do as far as action items right now, today, tonight, or more realistically tomorrow, is to call both of your senators on the telephone. Dial on the telephone. Nobody dials anymore, but talk to try and get through to a human. But if worst case scenario, leave a message and tell them in the strongest possible terms to co-sponsor, particularly if they're Republican senators, tell them to co-sponsor S-2598. Say it loudly, say it strongly, say it compellingly, wrap it with whatever, say whatever you need to say to compel them to co-sponsor S-2598. So I know I've said a bit of a mouthful here tonight. I know it's kind of hard to take in. You may want to rewind this live stream and watch it again. But to keep it simple for you, we had a great year and we are poised for, knock on wood, guys, we are poised for total victory. But this stuff does never has happened and will not happen in a vacuum. In many ways, everything depends on how hard we, the people, meaning you and me and everybody with the sound of my voice, everybody with student loans, fights. You can't count on 9 out of 10 student loan borrowers actually fighting. We, on this group, are the pioneers. So the most useful thing that you can do is call both what I just said. In case you forget that, it's very simple. Just go to our website and look at the daily actions. If you have maybe a few minutes on your hands and you want to really, really go above and beyond, do the past month or maybe even 2 months worth of our daily actions. They are quick. They are geared towards bankruptcy, student loan cancellation. They're quick. Most of them are usually like Twitter stuff that take literally seconds to do. But when everybody does them, they become very, very powerful. And is it not time that we got our power back? It's been stolen from us. We didn't give it away. It was stolen from us under unjust, unconstitutional law. Let us take our power back. It's not going to be given to us. It's not going to fall in our laps. And we here on this group, believe it or not, this group is far more important than you may realize. This group is the tip of the spear. In fact, this group is kind of the spear in many ways. This group is the eye of the storm. In many ways, we are the storm. And I could probably draw that analogy out. A couple other examples. I'm not gonna waste your time. But please, come on, guys. I don't want to beg. If begging would help, I would beg. But these are your loans, and this is your problem, and we are all in this together. And particularly for the older people on this group, myself included, we don't want to go even another 4 months under this tyrannical, big government, nation-wrecking, life-wrecking, oppressive, college-enriching, I said unconstitutional. We don't want to do this for even another 4 months, guys. We're done. These loans are nonsense. The lending system has failed. The best thing to do is throw it on the scrap heap of failed U.S. policy history. These loans need to go. They will go. But whether they go quickly or whether they go slowly and painfully, all that depends on how hard we in this group, meaning you, help us fight. Many hands make heavy work light. I've given you everything you need to fight and win this battle. It feels good to fight. So please, if you're going to make any New Year's resolutions, think about making the resolution to spend 15 minutes a day helping us fight this battle. Maybe it's with your state chapter group, which you can find through the website. Maybe it's by calling reporters. Maybe it's by doing something that you came up with. Like, we don't have all the good ideas. You can think for yourself, and you should. We're supposedly smart, or at least college educated people at the minimum. So, but doing our daily actions is probably the place where you should start, and it'll kind of get your feet on the ground. You'll kind of get the feeling for how to fight for this. We have a lot of opposition, guys. The student loan swamp in Washington, D.C. is petrified right now. They don't know what to do. They see this lending system vanishing into a mist of illegitimacy before their eyes, but they are not going to go down without a fight. And we are seeing a flurry of people, bad people, our opposition on the internet, everywhere else. They are very busy writing opposition articles in the mainstream media against us as we speak. I can only imagine what sort of other dirty tricks they may pull before they finally capitulate, accept their fate, realize that the jig is up, the scam is over, the people will not be conquered and enslaved. But that's only going to happen when we band together and fight. So go to our website, please. Okay, I'm begging you. I beg you to make a New Year's resolution, spend 15 minutes a day, starting by going to our website, doing the daily actions we list there, going back a month, maybe even 2 months. Probably want to get a Twitter account. That's like 80% of the stuff. Hey, another one, maybe last comment here from Gina again. Gina, I live on Social Security with a degree that I can't use, and I'm still paying on my student loans. They increased Social Security payments by 5.9%, but they also increased the cost of medical health care. Right. Gina, I empathize with you. And there are a lot of people in this group. As I said, there are more people over the age of 50 than under the age of 25 with student loans. The last time I checked, I think there was something like, I want to say 750,000 people in this country getting their Social Security garnished. That is just terrible. And I'm sorry that you have to go through that, Gina. I think we're a better country than that. I think we need to treat our seniors a lot better than that. And I think getting rid of these loans is a first step towards that. It's just terrible. So you're not alone, Gina. I guess that's the good news, because there are millions of people in your same shoes. And spread the word about this group. Spread the word about our petition, change.org/cancel student loans. And yeah, one final sort of perspective for you, Gina. Before the pandemic, less than half of all people were paying on their student loans. 80%. were either not paying, that's 50%, or 30%, they were paying, but their loan balances were going up. Now, that the pandemic, the pandemic has not been great for the country, right? So over how people weren't paying before the pandemic, almost nobody is paying right now during this repayment pause. And if and when they turn the lending system back on, I don't think even 25% of the people are going to resume paying. I think people have taken a long, healthy look at their lives, at this ridiculous, nonsensical lending system. And quite frankly, I don't, my best guess is that probably only 1 in 5 of borrowers will resume paying. So we got this, Gina. So take some heart. And I see you have a letter, a nonsense boilerplate letter that you got from a congressperson. Don't be put off by all the terrible responses you might get from your senator's office. Every time your senator's office, when you call them and tell them to co-sponsor S2598, do not take no for an answer. Call them again and say, that's not acceptable. You have a duty to your voters, to the state, and to the country to stand up to this diabolical, unconstitutional lending scam. I will not rest until you co-sponsor S2598. Make them work for you. Again, like I said, this is about us taking our power back. We do not have to put up with this lending scam. The founding fathers are on our side. I suspect strongly the founding fathers are looking down upon us and they're saying, our citizens cannot be this weak. This cannot be happening. Our citizens, they're looking down at us and they are hoping and praying, or whatever they do up there. They are hoping very much that we will throw this lending system off of our backs. Because remember, this fight is not just for us. This fight is for 45 million people who are walking around with student loans right now, but it's for hundreds of millions of people who are going to follow in our footsteps. They don't deserve to be conquered and enslaved. And, they say freedom has to be fought for. And this is a big part of that fight. So you should be proud to be fighting this fight with us. You should be proud to be putting in your 15 minutes a day. Quite frankly, I would hope that a lot of people, maybe with more time on their hands, would make this a part or half-time job. Maybe not like an 18-hour a day job like I've been doing for the past few months and going forward probably. But I would hope that you would really put your back into this, because we need you. The future is not set. This could go bad for us. So we need you in this fight. And there's a lot riding on it. There's a lot riding on this bill, S2598. And so, again, I've already begged once tonight. I think I'm going to leave it at that. You live in Florida, Gina? Ron DeSantis. The people of Florida, okay, the state budget of Florida is $80 billion. That's a lot of money. Budget of Florida, $80 billion. The people of Florida owe $120 billion in mostly federal student loan debt. If Ron DeSantis ought to be ashamed of himself that he let this happen on his watch. Ron DeSantis needs to be fighting for his people over the federal government, over the colleges. Governor Ron DeSantis, and send this video to him if you want. Governor Ron DeSantis has a moral, a constitutional, and a conservative duty to stand up and tell President Biden to cancel these loans, which Biden can do without adding a dime to the national debt, without needing a penny from the Treasury. Ron DeSantis, this is a state sovereignty issue. Governor DeSantis has a duty to stand up for his people, more than half of whom probably voted for him. In other words, 55% of voters in Florida are either Republican or independent. So, okay, on that note, I'm cutting it. I'm dropping the mic. I'm going to wish you all a great night, happy holidays. I hope you're glad with the year in review, and I hope that you're getting ready for next year because we need you. So good luck, Godspeed, and God bless everybody. I'll be back on Friday. Ed will be with you on Thursday.